The day after Clara announced her engagement, her assistant, Harris, approached me. He didn't offer congratulations. Instead, he handed me a one-way plane ticket. His voice was polite but firm. "You should probably go, Mr. Rowe," he advised, "and it would be best if you didn't show your face in New York ever again. Ms. Monroe has numerous ways to make things difficult for you." For all the years I had been with her, I was the subject of endless envy. Everyone saw the high life, the luxury, the proximity to power. But in the end, I was leaving in such a pathetic state that it was almost laughable. I just nodded at Harris and said, "Fine." That very night, the flight I was on plummeted from over 30,000 feet. I never imagined I would die this way. In the future, I had planned for myself. I would take Clara's $3 million, move to a different country, and get as far away as possible from all the toxic people and their endless drama. I imagined the rest of my life would be filled with countless good, simple days. But in the instant the plane broke apart, everything I had planned was gone. As I fell, I was filled with an overwhelming hate. That ticket Clara had someone book for me wasn't meant to send me off to a better life. It was intended to send me to my death. In that moment, I suddenly remembered the last time I actually saw Clara. We hadn't spoken properly in over 2 months. She had been completely preoccupied with arranging Julian Croft's divorce, settling the necessary agreements with his ex-wife, Isabel, and dealing with their young son. It took her a very, very long time to finally remember that she still technically had a boyfriend. She finally carved out an hour to come to my apartment. Of course, it wasn't really my place. It was located in the most luxurious part of New York City, where every square inch is worth a fortune. Without Clara's influence, I could never have dreamed of setting foot in a place like this in my entire life. It wasn't that long ago that we were lying in bed together in this very apartment, her arm casually thrown around my waist. But it was strange. After just a short period of separation, we had become complete strangers. We sat at opposite ends of the long dining table, feeling miles apart. She finally spoke. "What do you want?" It was a blunt, almost cold question. I didn't hold back. 3 years of my youth, I said. I asked her for $3 million. I will, of course, admit that I did love her once, but that love had completely vanished, without a single trace, the moment I found out that I was just a stand-in for someone else. She nodded, her expression remaining perfectly ice-cold, and simply said, "Okay." But then she added a condition. "You can't stay in New York anymore. He doesn't like the idea of being in the same city as you." What could I possibly do? I could only bow my head and agree to her terms. Even if I had refused, I knew Clara's temper. She had a million ways to force me out, and if it came to that, I would only end up in a worse state. She named a place, a city overseas. "I have property over there," she said. "Take your pick. Whichever one you like, it's yours." She was so generous. I managed a small, tight smile. "Okay." She gave a slight nod, then asked, "We won't see each other again. You can do that, right?" My continued existence was definitely an awkward problem for the newly engaged couple. "Of course," I replied. I was just an orphan. I had barely managed to get through college 3 years ago. I heard there were more opportunities to make money in New York, so I came. I did some modeling for a few days, which I quite liked and actually enjoyed, but it wasn't long before I ran into Clara. She pursued me with grand gestures for 2 intense weeks, and then we were officially together. She didn't like me being in the public eye, so I shrank my entire world until it revolved only around her. It got so small that in all our years together, everyone I knew was one of her friends, not one of mine. I truly had no attachments here. I couldn't wait to get away and never come back, and I never wanted to see her again. But fate, it seems, had other plans for me. I was already dead, and somehow I was seeing Clara again. But she couldn't see me, because I was now just a ghost. When I was alive, I cared a great deal about my appearance. Before boarding the flight, I had a stylist do my hair, and I changed into a brightly colored shirt that I hadn't worn in ages. I hadn't dressed this loud in years, simply because Clara didn't like it. I was so naive back then. I tailored everything I did to her preferences, but I only found out later that she didn't like it because I only looked most like Julian when I was in a dark suit. My eyes cold, my demeanor silent and reserved. Everyone knew that the A-list actor Julian was famous for his cool, stoic vibe and rugged style, which had made him a massive sensation. And now, perhaps as some strange mercy from heaven, I still looked exactly the way I did right before I died. There were no injuries. I was standing in Clara's office, and I studied my reflection in a large mirror for a while before letting out a sigh of relief. I looked around the room. We had been intimate here and there and over there. Truly, it was a past I'd rather not revisit. Finally, my gaze landed on Clara herself. She was 27 this year. Young, incredibly rich, and powerful. The biggest stumble she had ever taken in her life was watching the man she loved marry someone else. And now she was getting a second chance, putting all the pieces back together. You could even call it a happy occasion for her. So when her assistant, Harris, came into the office, he had a natural, polite smile on his face. "Ms. Monroe, the child's room is all set up," he reported, "and all the clothes and accessories Mr. Croft picked out yesterday have been collected." Clara just hummed, softly in response. She put down the contract she was holding, rubbed her brow wearily, then picked up her phone and looked at it. She stared at the screen for a long time. I was a little curious about what she was looking at. I was about to lean in closer to see when she suddenly turned off the screen. Then I heard her speak. "How is he now?" Harris, the assistant, paused for just a second before he quickly replied, "Mr. Croft is on set right now. It's not far from here. Would you like to go see him later?" I had seen the television show Julian was currently in. He played the prince of a fallen kingdom. He was handsome, brilliant, loving fiercely, and hating deeply. In the show, he used his wits to slowly win over the people and masterminded a complex plan. In the end, he successfully reclaimed his kingdom. If I were just a regular viewer, I probably would have fallen for him too. Unfortunately, I wasn't. Our first meeting was utterly humiliating. He looked me up and down and asked, "Do you know you have a bit of me in you?" I just nodded. I know. He was a huge star. A lot of people had said I looked like him, and I had always taken it as a compliment. He gave a cryptic, knowing smile. "You and her have been together for almost 3 years, right?" I said yes. He raised an eyebrow slightly. "Let me put it this way. She was into me 3 years ago." How ridiculous. I had been with her for 3 entire years. Not a single person had ever told me. I had been a complete fool, a stand-in for so long. Of course, I only found out later that the scripts for all of his successful shows were all carefully selected by Clara before they ever made their way to him. She couldn't bear to see him suffer any setbacks. So, under her protection, Julian's acting career was nothing but smooth sailing. And me? I had accomplished absolutely nothing. For all those years, I seemed to be living a glamorous life, But in reality, to any outsiders, I was just that guy who's always with Ms. Monroe. After Harris spoke, Clara was quiet for a long time. She tapped her pen on the desk. After a while, she finally spoke again. He should have arrived by now, right? The question was a bit out of the blue, but Harris was a professional who had seen it all, and he caught on quickly. He glanced at his watch. Yes, he should have. I caught on too. Clara was asking about me. I guessed she had at least a sliver of a conscience left. Too bad for her. I never made it across the ocean. I died last night. Clara showed no visible reaction to Harris's words. She just lit up her phone again and glanced at it. This time I was standing right next to her and got a clear look. The screen showed her chat history with me. I saw that she had sent me a text message just half an hour ago. If you ever run into any trouble, you can contact Harris. In the past, I would never have let more than half an hour go by without replying to her. After hearing Harris's response, Clara let out a cold, short laugh. She leaned back in her chair. Good. Has he contacted you? Harris shook his head. No. After I gave him the ticket that day, we never saw each other again. Clara was silent, her face completely blank. But in that moment, the air in the room seemed to freeze. Seeing this, Harris hesitated for a moment before saying, Ms. Monroe, should I give Mr. Rowe a call? Clara looked up, her gaze distant. It was impossible to tell what she was thinking. After a while, she spoke. No need. From now on, you don't have to tell me anything about him. After saying that, she glanced at our chat window one more time. There was still silence from the other end. Still no reply. Her hand hovered over the screen for a moment, and then she deleted all of my contact information. Seeing that, it finally dawned on me. She wasn't concerned about me at all. Those two questions were just a final courtesy before cutting ties completely. I was so pissed. How could I just die like that? My plan was to block her the second I got off the plane and moved into the luxury villa she gave me. But now, she had beaten me to it. It just felt so unsatisfying. Thinking of this, I lifted my leg and kicked Clara's thigh. Back when things were good between us, Clara was nice to me, not putting on any airs. And me, well, I'm the type to push my luck and throw little tantrums. When she pissed me off, I'd give her a little kick just like that. So the motion was perfectly smooth and natural. The difference was, back then, if I kicked too hard, it would hurt her a little. Now there was no feeling at all. I couldn't touch her. Great. That made me even more pissed. After the assistant left, Clara worked for a long time. During that time, I tried to leave the office, but before I could even get my ghostly hand to touch the doorknob, I was snapped back to her side. After 2 or 3 tries, I understood. I couldn't get too far away from Clara. It was probably because she was the one who had indirectly killed me. It's a real shame I didn't become some kind of vengeful spirit. Otherwise, I could have come for her life. Just then, a voice suddenly appeared inside my mind. Finally found you. I jumped in surprise. Who are you? I'm from the underworld, it said. Our department had a glitch. All of you who died in that crash are stuck with the person you were closest to in life for the time being. I quickly spoke up. Then get me out of here. Oh, and by the way, I had a lot of money I didn't get to spend. Can I transfer it to my next life? God knows how much I just wanted to be truly rich. The underworld employee sounded a bit troubled by my request. I'm not too sure about that. But since you had a tragic death this life, you can have a nicer-looking one next time. Fine, whatever, I said. Just get me out of here now. I'm in a hurry to be reincarnated." "Not yet," the voice replied. "We have to wait until after your funeral." "Why?" "During this time, your soul has formed a bond with the mortal world. Once the funeral is over, that bond will be gone. But from what I know, everyone else's funeral is already being planned. You're a bit of a sad case. It seems like nobody cares that you're dead." Talk about twisting the knife. After explaining all that, the voice disappeared from my mind. I sighed and mentally ran through everyone I knew. Finally, I came to a depressing conclusion. I was probably going to be a lonely ghost forever. After a long time, Clara finally prepared to leave the office. 2 minutes earlier, Julian had called and asked her to pick him up from his set. I followed her downstairs and into the car. I didn't look at Clara. Instead, I watched the scenery passing by outside the window. The skyscrapers, the bustling traffic, a city so vibrant it felt like a dream. I was full of regret. I was in the prime of my life, and because of one failed relationship, this was my end. I just couldn't accept it. That $3 million breakup fee. I hadn't even had the chance to spend a single dime. Seriously, this was just too much. My eyes started to well up. When we arrived at the studio, Clara got out of the car. A moment later, Julian came out and threw himself directly into her arms. Clara's body stiffened for just a second. Then she gave a soft smile. "How was it? Are you tired?" Julian nodded and started telling her about his day. He had a great voice. Even the most boring story sounded vivid and interesting coming from him. They were holding hands, fingers intertwined. They even wore matching engagement rings. Julian had been in countless popular on-screen couples over the years, but looking at him and Clara now, I had to admit they really were a perfect match. Just then, some people came out from inside the building. They were talking as they walked. "Did you see what's trending? A plane crashed last night. Over 100 people, no survivors." "Yeah, I saw that," the other replied. "I was supposed to go abroad for vacation, even booked a ticket on that exact flight. Luckily, I got this role at the last minute and couldn't go. I'm so lucky to be alive." My spirits lifted instantly. Clara was, deep down, a pretty generous person. If she knew I was dead, she might just hold a funeral for me. Sure enough, upon hearing those words, Clara froze as she was getting into the car. She slowly turned, let go of Julian's hand, and walked over to the two people. She looked at them, her expression quite calm. She asked, "Last night?" The two of them nodded. "Yeah." Clara was about to ask more, but Julian suddenly got out of the car, walked to her side, and said with clear displeasure, "You never care about this kind of stuff. I'm starving. Let's go get something to eat." A moment ago, Julian was far away and wearing sunglasses, so the two people hadn't recognized him. Now that he spoke up, they froze for a second, then their faces lit up with surprise. "Mr. Croft, this must be your fiancée." Julian's relationship with his ex-wife, Isabel, had been kept completely secret. But his relationship with Clara was a huge public affair. When the news of their engagement hit the internet, everyone said they were a match made in heaven. The hateful part was that I got dragged into it too. Netizens didn't care about right or wrong. Julian and Clara knew each other first. Plenty of their old classmates could prove it. So I became the homewrecker everyone despised, the evil man who used a slightly similar vibe to interfere in someone else's relationship. During that time, I couldn't even bring myself to look at my phone. Julian smiled slightly and admitted it freely. "Yes." "Wow, she's so beautiful. You two are so perfect together. When's the wedding?" "Mr. Croft, we're from the crew next door. We've been fans for so long but never had a chance to meet you. Could we get your autograph?" Julian readily agreed. Interrupted like that, Clara lost the urge to ask any more questions. My hopes were dashed in an instant, but I wasn't surprised. I had known for a long time that in Clara's heart, everything and everyone came second to Julian. His smiles, his tears, his divorce drama, even him just being hungry. She would pour 120% of her attention into it. Sure enough, while Julian was signing autographs, I saw her make a call, telling her assistant Harris to cancel their original dinner reservation and book one closer to where they were. I followed them to dinner and then back home. Throughout the whole thing, Clara was incredibly patient. If I still loved her, I probably would have been heartbroken, wishing I could cry myself into oblivion. But I didn't love her anymore. I just felt numb. There were even a few moments when I wondered, I've lived a good life and never done anything wrong, so how did I end up dead with no one caring? When we walked in the door, I saw that the villa had completely changed. It was nothing like when Clara and I were still together. Mrs. Gable, the housekeeper, came down the stairs, holding the hand of a little boy who looked to be only 3 or 4. He was wearing a cartoon t-shirt, his hair was naturally curly, and his eyes were big and bright. He was a handsome kid. Julian waved. "Ben, come here." His name was Ben. Ben ran over, jumped into Julian's arms, then grabbed Clara's hand. "Auntie Clara!" Clara knelt down, stroked his hair, and asked patiently, "Were you a good boy today?" What a picture-perfect family of 3. Who would have thought that the great Ms. Monroe, a titan of the business world, would stoop so low for love that she'd willingly raise another woman's child? Ben nodded eagerly. "I was good." Just then, the doorbell rang, a bit jarring, interrupting the moment. Mrs. Gable went to open the door and returned a moment later with a package. She looked at Julian, hesitating for a moment before finally saying, "I think this is from Mr. Rowe." For a moment, I was dazed. A memory I had deliberately forgotten after death floated back into my mind. That's right. Before I left, I had sent Clara a box. There were 2 things inside. The appearance of the box silenced the villa instantly, until Ben started crying in Julian's arms, pointing at the box in Mrs. Gable's hands. "Throw it away! That's from the bad uncle, wah!" His tantrum left Julian at a complete loss. He lowered his head and cooed softly at his son. Okay, whatever you say. Daddy will throw it away right now." With that, he gave Mrs. Gable a look. Mrs. Gable understood, her expression a little troubled. She glanced at Clara. The woman's gaze was lowered, staring at the object in Mrs. Gable's hands for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "Throw it away." Mrs. Gable sighed, turned, and went out the door. When she returned a moment later, her hands were empty. Julian watched and said casually, "Your little stand-in is pretty clingy, isn't he?" I gritted my teeth and swore under my breath. "Damn right I am. I'm a ghost who can't leave. I'm the bad uncle, the little stand-in. If they've got the guts, why don't they hire someone to perform an exorcism and make me disappear from this world for good?" Hearing this, Clara's expression didn't change at all. She didn't argue. She just said, "Is that so?" Julian smiled, had Mrs. Gable take Ben back to his room, and then leaned his head on Clara's shoulder with a hint of melancholy. "Ben is adorable, isn't he? I wish he were your son, too." I had met Julian's ex-wife, Isabel. She was a well-known entrepreneur, mature, composed, and elegant. Julian didn't come from a wealthy family and had been fiercely independent since he was young, like the male lead in a romance novel. In his sophomore year of college, at the peak of his youth, he met both Clara and his future ex-wife. Clara was just a student back then and always kept a low profile at school. Julian was attracted to her, but that attraction was nothing compared to his future. To win him over, his ex-wife invested in a show for him. By the time Clara found out, they were already together. At the same time, Julian also found out about Clara's family background. He naturally regretted his choice, but he was too proud. After that, he never contacted Clara again, until a few months ago, when he discovered his girlfriend was cheating on him. Only then did he come back to Clara, begging. And so my beautiful love story came to an end. Julian looked up. You know, Clara, you can't have children. Ben might be the only child you ever have. I don't mind, Clara cut him off, her voice firm. Julian let out a breath of relief, glanced toward the door, and said in a pleading tone, That's easy for you to say. But what if? What if your little stand-in had something that could tie him to you for life? Like, if he got some serious illness and needed you to take care of him forever, would you still have sent him away so easily? Clara frowned. I never deal in hypotheticals. Oh, come on, just tell me. I want to hear what you think. What was there to think about? She obviously would have left me to fend for myself. Even though when we were together, she had actually talked about marriage, had custom-made matching rings with me, and discussed what it would be like if we adopted a child. But those were all just what-ifs. The reality was, the moment Julian came back, she didn't even give me a proper breakup line. She just immediately distanced herself from me. Later, she coldly watched everything I went through, and then she paid me off. But now, Clara was silent for a moment, then simply pushed Julian away. Her voice was cold, and maybe a little tired. Don't bring him up again. Julian said, But you were together for so long. Haven't you thought about him at all these past 2 days? Clara pressed her lips together and shot Julian a cold look from under her lashes. He's already gone. Aren't you satisfied? Originally, Clara had planned to send me away before their engagement, but Julian wasn't happy about it. On our engagement day, let's invite him to watch, he'd said. The kid was with you for a while, after all. He should be there to witness it, don't you think? Because of that one sentence, my departure was delayed by half a month. At their engagement party, I sat in the audience and watched the whole thing. As luck would have it, Ben was sitting right next to me. He looked at me, called me big brother sweetly, and asked me to get him some food. But the moment I raised my hand to motion for a waiter, he fell off his chair, and his arm was cut by a shattered glass. He immediately started crying. Big brother, why did you push me? Everyone looked at me with contempt. They thought, this man is so vicious. When he couldn't get what he wanted, he resorted to hurting a child. Before I could even react or defend myself, Clara slapped me hard across the face. After she hit me, I looked up and saw Julian looking at me with a smug, satisfied expression. He said, I knew we shouldn't have let you come. And now, as a ghost listening to this conversation, I finally understood. Whether I was innocent or not was completely irrelevant to Clara. Everything she did was just to make Julian happy. Julian pursed his lips, then suddenly reached out to unbutton Clara's shirt and leaned in to kiss her. Clara didn't refuse, but she didn't embrace him either. Just then, her phone rang. Julian, annoyed by the interruption, snatched the phone and put it on speaker. I crouched in the corner and heard the person on the other end say, Hello, may I ask if you know a Mr. Adam Rowe? Clara's eyes flickered, and she was about to speak, but Julian had already said, Wrong number. With that, He blocked the number and turned off the phone. "I don't care," he said. "I finally have a day off. No matter what's going on, you have to spend it with me first." They went, upstairs. Luckily, the distance wasn't too great. I could move around freely downstairs. I didn't have to follow them up. And so I spent several more days by Clara's side. The first day, they went to see a movie, an older film. Julian picked it. Clara paid no attention to the movie. Her head was down, texting her assistant, Harris. After he finished his work report, the "is typing" bubble appeared on the screen for a long time. But no new message came through. Clara frowned and typed, "Are you asking for time off?" Harris quickly sent a message back. "No, Ms. Monroe. Have you seen what's trending? Mr. Croft has a new movie coming out soon. Is that so? Remind me when it's out." I clicked my tongue. This Harris guy really knew how to talk. The theater was crowded. I had been hovering near someone else, watching a few short videos and a couple of web series episodes. I had seen what was trending. A day later, the plane crash was still at the top of the trending list, not going anywhere. All Clara had to do was click on it to see. That was what Harris probably wanted to ask about. But Clara had previously told him not to tell her anything about me anymore. That's why Harris had to ask so indirectly. After replying, Clara looked up at the movie screen and froze for a long time. She had just realized that this movie was my favorite. I had pestered her into watching it with me several times. As we watched, we would inevitably end up making out on the couch. We were young and full of passion, day and night. After a moment, Clara suddenly stood up. Julian, who was wearing sunglasses and a hat, asked in a low voice, "What's wrong?" "I'm stepping out for a bit." She left the theater, left the mall entirely, and stood outside on the street. Before she knew it, the ground around her was littered with cigarette butts. The next day, Julian went to the set, and Ben came down with a fever. Clara took him to the hospital herself. After finally getting Ben settled in a room, Clara stood in a corner, staring out the window, lost in thought. A nurse walked by, not seeing her, and chatted with a colleague. "That little boy with the fever. He was here a few days ago, remember?" I remember. It was a huge deal. The hospital director personally came to greet them, but I thought it was just a scratch. Who knows? Kids, you know. Once they start crying, it's a whole production. But I remember there was a man with them, trailing behind. I heard he was the one who intentionally hurt the kid. "I know the one," the other nurse said. "He was pretty handsome. He was muttering about bad luck and a Rolls Royce under his breath. As he was talking, his voice started to crack. I even gave him a tissue. He was very polite, said thank you to me. Didn't seem like a bad person." Yes, that person was me. I had agreed to delay my departure and attend the engagement party. The condition for my attendance was a Rolls Royce, 2 of them. I was terrified of being poor. In the 2 months Clara had deliberately kept her distance, I'd tasted a lot of hardship. After that slap, I wanted to explode right there, but the thought of those luxury cars made me hold it in. Besides, I really was powerless against them. And now Clara, standing nearby, actually chuckled when she heard this. But a second later, she couldn't smile anymore. Because the other nurse continued. "I remember now. I'd seen him before that. I was delivering something across the way and saw him coming out of the specialist clinic for a follow-up." It's hard to describe the expression on Clara's face at that moment. Her lips were slightly parted, her back slumped a little, her hand hanging by her side clenched into a loose fist. She looked completely lost. Just then, Ben's voice came from inside the room. He said, "Auntie Clara." Clara went in. She stood by the bed, looking at the little boy who was delirious with fever, and suddenly asked, "That day, did that handsome big brother really push you on purpose?" Ben was just a little kid, and he felt awful from the fever. He stammered for a long time, and finally, unable to keep up the lie, his lips trembled, and he said, I fell by myself." That night, Clara stood outside the hospital room, staring at the specialist building across the way for the entire night. Watching her back, I remembered too. When I died, my illness was already quite advanced. The reason I had agreed to leave so readily, apart from being blinded by the money, was that I wanted to find a place to get treatment in peace. If Clara had known, she would never have agreed. It wasn't because I thought she still loved me. It was because she was rich and powerful, and she would have used every means possible to keep me. And I didn't want to live that kind of life anymore. My mind was clear. With the money she gave me, I could focus on my health. Life would have been perfect. At the first light of dawn, she called the hospital director. By the time she hung up, she knew I had left while hiding a serious illness. She put her phone away, leaned her forehead against the cool wall, and let out a short, sharp laugh. "Adam Rowe, you've really outdone yourself." 2 minutes later, I watched as she expertly typed in a string of numbers. It was my number. But for some reason, she hesitated, not making the call. After a long moment, she opened her messaging app, found my number, and sent a friend request. I didn't get it. What was she trying to do? Force me to come back for treatment? Sigh. She didn't have to. I was already good and dead. That afternoon, Ben was discharged from the hospital, but Clara wasn't at home with him, nor was she at the office. Instead, she drove to the place where I used to live. It was the apartment she had given me. After we broke up, she never mentioned taking it back, so I took the initiative and sold it. I got a high price for it, too. I was happy about that for days. But now, I was watching her, punch in the code and open the door. She walked inside. The furnishings hadn't changed much. It was exactly as I had left it. So the buyer was her. Did she love this apartment that much? She gave it to me, then bought it back from me. I really don't understand the way rich people think. She walked around the apartment, then finally sat down on the sofa. Someone called her. It was Harris's voice. "Ms. Monroe, we've scheduled the pre-wedding photo shoot. It's for the day after tomorrow. If there are no issues on your end, I'll go ahead and inform Mr. Croft." Clara was silent for a very long time. She didn't say a word. I was getting tired, too, so I sat down on the other end of the sofa. The next moment, Clara's gaze suddenly shifted. It landed right on me. I froze, almost thinking she could see me. But she slowly pulled her gaze away, and finally spoke. "Cancel it." "What?" "But I checked. The day after tomorrow works for both you and Mr. Croft. So, next week then?" I had found out over the past few days that their wedding was in 2 months. "No," Clara said. "What I mean is, the photo shoot is off. We're not doing it." I couldn't figure Clara out anymore. After saying that, she spoke again. "Book me a flight. I'm leaving tonight." As those words fell, it was as if Clara had finally figured something out. She leaned back, a surprisingly gentle look on her face. She said, "I'm going to find him." "He left in such a hurry," she continued, almost to herself. "There were so many things we didn't get to say. Do you think he'll blame me for how cruel I was about it all?" I was stunned. The him Clara was talking about. Was it me? Clara sighed, her grip on her phone tight. She was usually so cold and reserved, rarely speaking to anyone so openly. These few sentences were completely out of character. She had always believed Julian was the love of her life, but over these past few days, she had slowly realized that it might have just been an obsession. She couldn't lose her Adam, and lose him just because of a youthful fantasy she couldn't have. However, Harris, on the other end of the line, didn't agree right away. He hesitated, then finally said, "Miss Monroe, a few days ago, Mr. Rowe, he passed away. That flight, it crashed." I immediately perked up. Clara's hand trembled slightly, and her face went pale. Everything she had deliberately ignored over the past few days came flooding for the chat window with no reply, the trending topic that kept coming up. One thing after another. If she had paid just a little more attention, she wouldn't be finding out about this only now. Harris's voice came from the other end, extremely cautious. "Ms. Monroe?" Clara's voice had become a bit hoarse. "When did you know?" "Not long after it happened." He paused, then added, "It was the day you told me not to tell you anything more about Mr. Rowe." I nodded silently. "That's right. I can vouch for Harris on that." Clara was unreasonable and decisive. When she made a decision, her subordinates could only obey. Or maybe, in Harris's mind, I was insignificant to Clara. She would never think of me again, let alone ask about my whereabouts. As an assistant, why would he go out of his way to do something thankless and offend the future Mr. Croft? Clara's face was grim. Standing next to her, even I could tell she was not in a good state. The next moment she shot up and viciously kicked the coffee table in front of her. My heart ached a little. I picked out that coffee table myself. It was pretty expensive. Clara got up, and as if she'd suddenly remembered something, she unblocked the number Julian had blocked. Then she dialed it. Her fingertips were trembling. Her other hand uncontrollably pulled a cigarette from the pack on the table and lit it. "Adam Rowe. He's dead, isn't he?" The person on the other end was silent for a moment, then finally spoke. "My condolences." After hanging up, Clara sat alone for a long time before driving home. The moment she walked in the door, she had only one sentence. "You knew all along, didn't you?" Julian was wearing a face mask and watching a movie. Hearing her, he instinctively replied, "What? Why are you back so late? Ben was asking where you were all afternoon. You should go upstairs and check on him." Clara's lips twisted into a smirk as she walked up to Julian. Her eyes were ice cold. I had never seen her like this before, let alone Julian. He backed away, his voice rising. "What's wrong with you freaking out like this? I'm not like your little stand-in. I have a temper, you know." At those words, Clara, for some reason, started to laugh. And as she laughed, tears streamed down her face. "I remember. He had a big temper, too. The day I slapped him, I thought he was going to cause a huge scene at our engagement party. But he didn't. Only the favored ones dare to be reckless. By then, I already knew my place in her heart. How would I have dared?" The color drained from Julian's face. "Adam Rowe? You found out about him?" "Yes." "What? Don't tell me that now that he's dead, you've suddenly realized you were actually in love with him." Clara's lips pressed into a thin line. "That's right. The wedding's off. I'm not marrying you." Julian shot to his feet. "No. You promised you'd marry me, that you'd treat Ben like your own son and be good to us for the rest of our lives. You can't go back on your word." Clara's brow furrowed as she spoke each word with chilling clarity. If you hadn't insisted he stay for our engagement party, he wouldn't be dead. Julian froze, then started to laugh. "You're blaming me? You're actually blaming me. If you weren't hung up on him, would I have had to do that? You probably don't even know, do you? You call out his name in your sleep. When we go shopping, you always pick out clothes in his favorite style and his size. You already fell for him. If you ask me, you're the hypocrite. You're the one who killed him. Besides, when I said he should stay for the engagement party, you were visibly relieved. You wanted to see him more too, didn't you?" Clara listened in silence, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. I stood by, a little stunned. What the hell was all this? It started to rain outside, with loud claps of thunder. Inside, the two of them faced off. From upstairs came Ben's crying. "Mommy, Auntie!" Clara looked up, her eyes shot with red, and pointed at the front door. She said to Julian, "Get out! Get out now!" Julian and his mother left that very night. Watching this drama unfold, to be honest, I didn't feel any satisfaction. I just felt it was all absurd. At this point, I almost wished Clara had loved Julian all along. Otherwise, it just makes my death look ridiculous. A love realized too late is a love I don't want. After the villa finally fell quiet, Clara collapsed onto the sofa, her gaze empty. After a long while, I heard a suppressed sob. Come to think of it, I'd never seen her cry before. A long time passed. I was about to doze off, but Clara suddenly shot up and ran outside like a madwoman. She started digging through the trash cans. The rain poured down on her, and in no time she was a complete mess. Luckily, I was a ghost and couldn't feel any of it. She muttered, "Where is it? I was wrong. I shouldn't have thrown it away." Oh, so she was looking for the package I sent her. She searched for an entire night, but found nothing. She sat by the door, utterly dejected. Thankfully, this was a gated community, so there weren't many people around to see her like this. Mrs. Gable didn't sleep at the villa. When she arrived the next day, she was startled. "Ma'am, what are you—" A flicker of life returned to Clara's face. She said, "The package he sent. You were the one who threw it away, but I can't find it." Mrs. Gable froze, her expression changing. After a moment, she said, "Actually, I didn't throw it away." Clara looked up, her eyes shining with a startling brightness. "Where is it?" Mrs. Gable headed toward her room, with Clara following close behind, step for step. Mrs. Gable sighed. "Mr. Rowe is a good young man, not a bad bone in his body. Going to such a faraway place all by himself. Who knows when he'll be back?" Clara's steps faltered, her breath catching in her throat. "He's not coming back." Mrs. Gable didn't understand what she meant, just assuming Clara was determined to keep me away forever. She shook her head. "Such a shame. Before, he would always ask me what you liked to eat, wanted to cook for you. He also said he didn't really like wearing such stuffy suits, but since you liked it, he liked it. He even asked me once if he had a similar vibe to Mr. Croft. The young man was all smiles. I didn't have the heart to tell him the truth, so I said he was even more handsome than Mr. Croft. He was so happy when he heard that." Clara turned her head, her hands, trembling uncontrollably at her sides. Her eyes instantly turned red. In the end, the box made its way into Clara's hands. She treated it like a treasure, taking it back to her room. She placed her hand on it, but her hand was covered in dirt. She quickly used a tissue to wipe the box clean and didn't dare touch it again. Instead, she went to take a shower and change into clean clothes first. This was probably the longest shower she had ever taken. Watching all this, I felt bored. When a person dies, it's like a lamp going out. Everything is empty. She opened the box, but her expression slowly stiffened. Inside was an invitation to their engagement party. On the back, I had written a line of text. "The party favors sucked. I didn't push him. Go to hell." Well, in the end, I was the one who died. I guess you could say my harsh words came back to bite me. The other item was the pair of matching rings we had made together. Hers, whether by accident or on purpose, had been lost long ago. She had barely worn it. I had found it in the grass downstairs from my old apartment building. Now I was returning it to her along with mine. After all, she was the one who paid for them. You could call it returning property to its rightful owner. Clara stared for a long time before she raised her hand and took off the ring she shared with Julian. She put on the one from the box. After that day, she fell into a deep depression. Not long after, the news of her broken engagement with Julian got out. He was subsequently exposed for his diva-like behavior and for bullying new actors on set. His reputation plummeted. But this time, Clara didn't help him handle it. She even told her staff, "Add more fuel to the fire." Women are terrifying. As the days passed, she still hadn't remembered to arrange my funeral. Even the guy from the underworld couldn't help but come and rush her. "How about I pull some strings and let you say a word to her?" But that same night, Clara, from days of not sleeping, got into a car accident. The day she was about to wake up, the sun was shining brightly. I stood by the window and suddenly spoke. "Clara." Her eyelashes trembled. She seemed to want to open her eyes, but couldn't. I said, "I have no family, and no friends. For old time's sake, could you hold a funeral for me? Make it a lively one. We won't see each other in the next life." After I spoke, the hospital room was quiet for a long time. After a while, I heard a very low, hoarse voice reply, "Okay."